Hello, my name is Andrea Campaña, and I am going to present on a topic regarding our Nobel Prize winner, Gabriela Mistral. Today I'm going to present the presentation called Gabriela Mistral and her pedagogical thought, an approach based on qualitative content analysis. This work that I will present today has been done with a colleague of mine called Diego Mendoza. So I'm going to start by sharing a PPT. Okay, as you can see, I already told you the name of our presentation. The purpose of our presentation is to delve into 3 essays written by Gabriela Mistral. The first one is called Active Methods of Instruction, written in 1919, then The Open Air School in 1922, and then And Keep Away from the Mass as Much as Possible, that was written around 1936, we're not sure. All of these texts were written in her mother tongue, Spanish. Well, through the analysis of these texts from the point of view of qualitative content analysis, we found some recurring themes like autonomy, experience, care, and individualized attention. Thinking about these themes that we found, the central argument of the paper proposes that Mistral's pedagogy is fully and deeply humanistic, and that she understands education from an ethical and relational perspective, grounded in trust, in lived experience, and respect for the individuality of the students. She's very much concerned about the boy and the girl, as she says. Well, let me continue. In our theoretical framework, we made connections between the point of view of Mistral, regarding pedagogy, of course, and John Dewey, mainly regarding education as experience and the active participation of students in their educational process. Maria Montessori also relates in that aspect. And we related Mistral also with Montessori in the fact that they both advocate for autonomy in the student and respect for individual rhythms. This is very interesting, and one of the points that Mistral highlights most is the idea of having your own rhythm as a student. Then Celestine Freinet appeals to the experiential knowledge and to connect life with concrete experiences. Paulo Freire also talks about human experience and emphasizes the idea of dialogue and trust and guidance. Mistral is very, very much concerned with the concept of trust. Noddings also points at an ethical issue that Mistral also touches on her writings. And Illich and Meirieu critique the concept of mass in education, and also the impersonal kind of education that is being held, and the standardized learning. So with regards to our methodology, we analyzed the different texts by Mistral. We did an analysis of units, of paragraphs, sentences, and metaphors that contain pedagogical meaning. And from them, we determine certain codes, categories, and themes. These textual fragments were coded first to find out their pedagogical meaning, and these codes were later on turned into broader categories, which finally allowed the emergence of the three themes that I will be touching on in a minute. So the process that we did from coding to categorizing and then finding these themes allowed us to identify Mistral's recurring educational principles and also try to decipher her pedagogical vision. The first theme that we discovered or that emerged is the effectiveness of teaching and the balance between student autonomy and the flexible role of the teacher. So for Mistral, the effectiveness of teaching is strictly related to a balance between the student's active autonomy and the role of the teacher that has to be flexible. So the teacher needs to allow the student to emerge in his own ways and in his or her own thoughts. Mainly, this theme appears in Métodos, the activos de instrucción, or active methods of instruction, and the codes that were associated to this or that emerged were student initiative, teacher guidance, self-confidence, and active participation. The broader category was active pedagogy. We can quote a statement by Mistral: the teacher must never do what the child can do for himself. So Mistral was seeing the teacher as a guide in this process of self-discovery that takes place in every student. Not somebody that will tell the student what life is all about, but allows the student to discover by himself or herself what life brings, right? This is very compatible with the second essay and what we find as a theme here, outdoor education as a humanizing pedagogical proposal. So Mistral was very much interested in outdoor education. She thought that outdoor education could bring certain things to the students or certain knowledge or experience that a four-wall classroom couldn't. So she promoted nature as a meaningful source of knowledge and life. So the recurrent codes here are nature, direct observation, real experience, trust, and contact with reality. So if we think about a broader category, experiential education and humanized learning environments can be derived from this. Mistral experienced very much with outdoor education. She took her students to the vineyard that was outside the school, and she asked her students to discover nature and interact with nature. That according to Mistral, transformed the educational experience of the students. So she thought that learning outside the classroom, becomes more real, more human, and more connected to life. So this experience was extremely important for Mistral, and I think it's a very interesting topic to bring up nowadays. I know that there are some countries that are doing this, and some like New Zealand, I understand that is very much into open air schooling, and also some experiments have been done here in Chile. The third theme is authentic and humanizing education through individualized relationships. This is directly related to the concept of not educating in massive environments. So what is important for Mistral is this individualized connection and meaningful connection that can exist between the teacher and the student. This is strictly related to the text and keep away from the mass as much as possible. And the codes that we found are individuality, trust, which is another concept that is very recurrent in Mistral's pedagogy. Closeness, human encounter, and massification. Broader categories are individualized attention and criticism of dispersonalized educational systems. So what Mistral wanted is, well, first she conceived the classroom as a small classroom in the neighborhood, or the school being in the neighborhood and being close to your house, and the classroom of not more than 10 to 12 students. So Mistral advocated for moving away from the mass. So she trusted relationships that would be close, genuine interaction between students and between teacher and students, because she thought that students require time, sensitivity, and authentic encounters. She didn't like these rigid institutional structures that in her own vision thwarted education of students more than helped the education of students. So from our analysis and our research, we can state that Mistral understood education not as a transmission of knowledge, right? Not as this banking education that Paulo Freire also very much criticized. She didn't think that education should be just a transmission of knowledge, but it was, for her, an educational, an ethical and relational process, and that had to entail trust, care, respect for the student, for the rhythms of the student, for the mythology of the student, as she, in some of her papers, called it. So from this progression of codes, categories, and themes, we can see that there are recurrent themes in her pedagogical vision that these three essays touch on. The study also criticizes, Mistral criticizes, right? But the study shows that Mistral criticizes rigid and massified educational systems. That in a way, she thought that this limited the educational encounters that were so important for her. For example, she advocated for eating with your students, cooking with your students, because through food, for example, she thought that the real student appears, and the real relationships appear. So finally, the study argues that Mistral pedagogical thought, it's relevant for today. It is relevant in the sense that we have a lot of mass education. There is no time for real, genuine caring bonds between students and teachers anymore. When pedagogy and education becomes very massive, then we become numbers, right? So she was really concerned with the humanization of education and the importance of meaningful pedagogical relationships. So this is the presentation that I have presented for you, but remember that this has been a research done by myself and Diego Mendoza. These are the references. And if you have any comments and any questions, I would be very much happy to respond them through the platform. Thank you very much and have a great conference. Bye-bye.